places to be, things to do in the morning. So without further ado, we would love to welcome Heidi Calmus to the stage.
Oh my gosh. Hello.
Go kill it, sister.
Thank
Your notes
you.
are up there.
Awesome, thank you. I won't step on them, I promise. Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Here's your mic.
Thank you.
Is that good for the papers?
Sure. Awesome. Guys, hi. Hello. Guys, thanks so much for having me here, and thank you for staying late, because I know we are behind schedule, so really grateful to be here. And honestly, this is so fun, okay? Like, I've been on tour with my husband. Do you want to switch to the next slide, or do you want me to do that? We don't have a clicker. She was like, you just give me a code word, and I have to click it to the next slide for you. But anyways, I have been on tour with my husband doing a stand-up comedy tour. We've done 11 shows so far this year. We've been in front of 7,500 people. It has been so incredibly fun. All of the theaters that we have been in have been amazing. Here's a couple of our shows right here. We were just in Salt Lake City at Wise Guys. Guys, do you guys know? Yeah, it was so fun. And then the other one is me at the Aggie, which a bunch of you came to, and that was a fun show. I don't know who has seen one of our shows in town? It has been so fun. If you've come, thank you for being there. It has been so fun. But listen, as fun as that has been, I had more anticipation and nervousness and excitement of coming into this room than to being in front of those 7,500 people, okay? Because this is a room full of doers. Like, how many of you are going to meetings and you're like, oh my gosh, we are having meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and nobody is doing anything, and we're having another meeting to talk about the things that we need to do. We're just having another meeting to talk about the more things that we need to do, and we don't do anything. So I love being around people who are like, forget the meeting, I'm just gonna go. Like, can you do this for me? Thank you. And Sarah was talking about that earlier when I got here. She was like, I have been literally everywhere today. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, that's because you are a doer. And I am so grateful to be in a room full of doers. So thank you for having me. Okay, you can go to the next slide. I'm going to be saying that the whole night. Sorry, guys. Okay, my first NoCo Women in Business meeting was last year. It was the Galentine's meeting. I was 36 weeks pregnant and huge. And I had seen this event advertised, but I didn't know anybody. I was just like, okay, I want to do something new with my life. I want to be around some women who are doing stuff. And I saw like women just like you guys having a bunch of fun on a reel somewhere, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. So I showed up. I did not know anybody, okay? I walked in that door, and you know, that is hard for me. Anyone else, it's like hard for you to like walk into a room and be like, ugh. That is me. And so I came and I was like, this is crazy. Sorry, this is life right now, okay? So I was like, I don't know a single person. I was like, but I'm gonna go, and I know when I get there, I'm gonna be fine. I just need to step into the room. And you know what? I went into that room that night and I met some new women, and some of those women have become good friends of mine that I'm now hanging out with on a regular basis. And it was because of one decision to just show up, okay? We never know how our contacts and the people that we're connecting with are that's gonna change the trajectory of everything. So super grateful for that. Thank you guys so much for setting this up. Like, I think there's more women here this year than there was last year, correct, at this event? It's been super fun. Yeah. Okay, can you go to the next slide? Okay, we're gonna do something fun right now. Okay, go back. Next one. Okay, who has a phone? Okay, grab your phones out. If your phone will scan that QR code, go ahead and scan that QR code. If you can't, go to Slido or Slido.com, and when you get there, it'll say it'll give you like a place to enter in this code. Is it working? Okay. Okay, here we go. First question up. Wow, look at this. So is this your first time? 62, okay, 30. We got 10 more seconds, 10 more seconds. This is fun. So far, about 40% of you, this is your first time here. That's super cool. Okay, let's go to the next question. How many of you don't know anyone yet? I don't know a single person yet. I came with a friend, but don't know anyone else, and I make friends. Yeah, interesting. This is fun. How many have used a program like this before? It's so cool. I love seeing this stuff in real life. It's so fun. Okay, if you don't know a single person, I don't know why it's going early on you, but anyways, we'll get back to that. But how many of you avoid entering a new space because you don't know how or if you will fit in? Whoa! Look at that. Oh, can you go back? I don't know why it's like going forward. I've never done this in front of the crowds before, so it's like skipping on its own, so I'm so sorry. No, you're good. I think this is where we are, right? Okay. This is fun to see. I used to, but I'm more comfortable now, but for sure, 32% of you for sure avoid going into places because you don't feel comfortable yet. This is fun. Okay, let's go to the next one. How many of you own a business? Yes, I own a business. No, I don't own a business. I don't own a business, but I'm considering moving that direction. I'm so curious. Look at this. 10% of you are considering. This is fun. It's good to know who's in the room. Okay, I also don't own a business. I work for my husband's business, but I'm in this room because I like to know who's doing what. You know what I'm saying? Okay, this is fun. Okay, well, that's good. That's good information. Cool. Thanks for sharing, guys. Okay, now my next question is, what do you plan to receive from this evening tonight? Okay, not what do you want to or what do you hope to, but what are you planning to receive from tonight? It changes the conversation, right? Relationships, connections, friends, confidence. These are great answers. Inspiration. Positive connection. I see a lot of people wanting new connections, all these things. This is so great. To gain confidence. This is so great. You guys have such great answers. Filling my cup with friends. I love that. Okay, I love this. Keep thinking about that. Let's move on. Okay, what does community mean for you? Put in one word. We're going to see them all pop up. It's going to make a little cloud. It's going to be cute. Support. Feeling safe, yes. Connection, family, relationships. Friendships, belonging, inspiration, empowerment, unity, love, connecting. These are all great. Keep them going. This is so great. Accountability. Hype girl energy. Woo woo! Home. Ooh, that's a good one. Support. Okay. You can leave it there and you guys can keep entering in your stuff. But I think it's so good to see like what people think when you walk into a room. Like, how do we see? These are all words. When I think of community, I think of belonging for sure. And communities are a beautiful thing, right? They really are. But just like with anything in our lives that are amazing, like love, for example, right? Love is amazing. And there's so many great things that come with it. But love also comes with hard stuff. Like my kids, for example, right? Like, I love my kids. Like, I will walk through fire for you. But also, go to bed. Like, I'm so done, just go to bed, right? And communities are the same way. Like, you're like, yes, I will show up, I will be there, I will do everything. But also, what the heck is going on over there? Like, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to deal with that right now, right? But it's not like with my kids, if I'm sending them to bed, it's not like I'm like, I don't want to ever see your face again. It's like, I know that the next morning, we're going to, no. That night, I'm going to go up into the room after they went to bed, and I'm going to stare and look at their beautiful little faces because I love them so much, right? And I know you would do that too. Like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're like, you just had a horrible day with your kids, but you're scrolling, you're looking at their pictures, and now you're crying before you go to bed because you can't handle how much you love your kids. That is what community is like. It creates a safe space. I think of community, I think of a place to be yourself. A place that allows you to just come as you are, right? A place that just says, you know what, I see you, and you know what, we all got our stuff, but it's fine, just bring it, it's fine, we're gonna work through it. That's what I think of. The opposite of community is isolation. You can go to the next slide. And hit it again. I thought I was gonna have my own clicker, so I don't, but next one. The opposite of community is isolation, and isolation is painful. How many of you have ever heard of the book, The Body Keeps the Score? Yeah, anybody read that? Okay. If you know anything about The Body Keeps the Score, you know that we hold emotional pain physically. It sits inside of us and it causes chronic pain and chronic issues. And when you feel isolated and you feel like you don't have anybody, that is causing issues for all of us, right? But you know, when we are living in isolation and we don't know people around us, we cannot show up in our best capacity. We just can't. And so, what are we going to do about that? Well, women have been isolated since the beginning of time. Isolation is not a word that we are foreign to, correct? When I say the word isolation, how many of you know what I'm talking about? How many of you feel that? Yeah, I have felt isolated for a long time. And we have felt this way forever. Now, I know not everybody in here is going to share the same faith belief systems as I do. But for me and my Christian faith, I understand and I have a viewpoint that this fight and this feeling of isolating women has started from the very, very, very beginning. Lucifer, who was known as the morning star, was the right hand of God. And he was beautiful. And he wanted to be a creator. And he fell to his demise because he wanted to take control and he wanted to be God, right? And he fell. But then God created the woman, and she was beautiful, and she got to create. And he has been out for us ever since, trying to take our lives away from us, filling lies in our minds, and not just in our minds, in the world, okay? So, in her book, Trauma and Recovery, how many of you ever heard of this book before? In her book, Trauma and Recovery, Judith Herman gives a very detailed discussion of the trauma of women throughout history. Now, for the sake of time here, we're going to just start at the 20th century, okay? And I'm going to refer to my notes here because otherwise I will ramble. So, for most of the 20th century, all we knew about post-traumatic disorders was from the study of men coming back from combat war, okay? But it wasn't until the women's liberation movement of the 1970s that they started to realize that most of the post-traumatic disorders are not from those of men in war, but those of women in civilian life. That's right. Us existing, us doing our day-to-day lives was causing trauma, okay? Now, back in the day when they were trying to understand all of these symptoms, psychologists like Jean Pierre and Sigmund Freud were trying to understand what these symptoms were that women were having. So they would bring these women into these big, large theaters in front of all these other professionals, and they would basically try to trigger this woman on stage through words and all kinds of ways to basically reenact the symptoms that she said she was experiencing. And that's terrifying, okay, that they would do this. But it was the first time in history, that women were being listened to, but not out of empathy. It was not to liberate her. It was to make discoveries about a disease they were calling hysteria. How many of you have heard the term hysteria? Okay, when people say, oh, that's hysterical, all right, we gotta quit saying that. I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, go to the next slide. Keep going. Sorry, I should have been doing this whole time. Okay, here we go. First definition of hysteria. A strange disease with incoherent and incomprehensible symptoms. Many physicians believed it was a disease proper to women and originating in the uterus. Okay, just like think of that for a second. All these men sitting in this room being like, oh, yes, it has to be in the uterus because those women are crazy and we are not. Not for ever 1 second understanding that they also originated in the uterus. It's just funny. what people got away with. Okay, second, a dramatic medical metaphor for everything men found mysterious or unmanageable in the opposite sex. Yeah. But when I think about this, I think about those women who went for it. They're like, yeah, help me out. Like, yes, I will put myself out there. I will make myself known. I will give you these stories. And they said those things and they weren't listened to. Right? Why do I bring this up? Because we are carrying around lies that do not belong to us. For all of that time, for all of history, until the 1970s, which is only 50 years ago, we were told that we were incoherent and incomprehensible, that we were emotional, that we were too much, that we couldn't be trusted with our own thoughts, our own tuitions, right? And so, for so long in society, we were just told this for so long that we believed it as truth. And then there was some women that came along and were like, that is not true. That is not true, and we're not taking the bait. Thank God for the women who were not like, I'm not taking that bait. Yeah, and you know what? I think that there's many of you in this room that also are not taking that bait, correct? Correct. How many of us have heard this information about our history before? Like, how many have talked about this at all? Like, can we just acknowledge that? We are carrying around lies that don't belong to us, and it's time for us to release them. We are in our releasing era, okay? Take that, Taylor. So how are we going to do this? You can go to the next slide. How do we move forward? The first one is community. What you're doing here. You are here to connect and meet with other people. You are here to step out of what you think you know and just see what's going on, right? Okay, I am not, there's plenty of women here that are breaking through barriers, and there's plenty of women here that can coach you and all the things. I'm not a coach. I'm not an expert in community building. I don't have any 5 steps to community building, but what I do have, if any of you know my history of how I got here, I used to work with women who were living on the streets and being trafficked on the streets. I did primarily 10 years of work with domestic sex trafficked women. And so what I have to bring to the table is watching these women who've been on the streets, who had all their power taken away from them, wake up and realize one day that they had value and they had worth, and they were rising up from the ashes that they were thrown in, and they were taking it back. Okay? That's what I have. My master's class was sitting on side corners with these women on the streets, listening to their stories. It was going to IHOP in the middle of the night, listening to them talk about how they just left their situation. It was walking out of jail cells with them. It was walking into court with them, watching their perpetrator on the other side of the room threaten them with their eyes, and for the amount of times that the courts did not take the side of her because victim gaslighting is a thing, and the amount of times that they were like, you know what, whatever, I've got you guys. They still went for it. They're still like, I know I have purpose and value, and just because the court system doesn't say that I do, I still know that I do. But how could they do that? How could they do that unless they had a community of women that were speaking truth into them, right? That's what we did. So I know I watched them sort of breathe in healing and then breathe out love. And I watched them learn what love and grace are all about. Because that is what this is all about, right? It's all about love. It's all about grace. It's all about understanding that the only way that you are going to heal from the traumatic things that have been given to you is through healthy relationship with each other, okay? We cannot understand where we are going unless we understand where we have been. You cannot forget the why of why you are here. You being here and moving your business forward has so much more to do with everyone else around you than it does with you. It goes so much deeper. It goes to liberating the woman that's sitting next to you thinking about doing the same thing. Tells her, you know what? I did this, you can do it too. And you know what? You're worth it. It goes all the way down to those women sitting on the streets. I'm sorry, I cannot go a single place without bringing it back to these women because they are the powerhouses in my world. I can't do it. But it goes all the way down to them looking for women who have the strength to say, you are valuable and you're worth it, and we got this. We can do this. You can get out of this. This is not your life. This is not your truth. So, the opposite of being isolated is being in community. So, if you never hear anything else from me, you can go to the next slide. If you never hear anything else from me, I want you to hear this. You are loved simply because you exist. You belong simply because you exist. You are not too much. You are enough. Period. Period. I had this girl, she would always be like, period, point blank. So, you are enough, period, point blank. Now, I have some individual questions, okay? So, first I do want to tell you these quotes because I think they're important. And gearing up for tonight, I read this book called The Structure of Belonging. It was amazing. It's by this guy named Peter Block. If you have never heard of that book, you should read it. But he says a couple things in there, and this is one of his quotes. A community's well-being simply has to do with the quality of the relationships and cohesion that exists amongst its members. It is measured by how much we trust each other. How many of you know that's true? Yeah. Okay, you can go to the next slide. He also says this. If we allow ourselves to continue believing the lies, continue living in the isolation, we will blame ourselves and each other to explain our condition. We will stay focused on our limits, on what we lack, on our need for more money, more training, more of everything. Real change will carry the same odds as a lottery ticket. And I think that's important for us to understand. If we continue to live in isolation, we will never move forward, okay? Change cannot occur. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is another question. Now, you do not have to post your answers here, okay? I just am giving you the option to do so because I guarantee you there's another woman in this room that is feeling the same way you do. So here's my first question. What lies have you believed about yourself that are keeping you from connecting with the community around you? I'm gonna give you just a couple minutes to think about that. Or a couple seconds. I'll tell you what some of mine were. I can't speak. I'm not clear. No, I don't have, people won't listen to me the same way that they'll listen to somebody else. I'm disorganized. These are the lies that I tell myself that keep me from going and moving forward and doing things, amongst other things, okay? But while you're thinking about that, I want to tell a story. Not too long ago, I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine who was willing and articulate enough to tell me the ways in which I was being hurtful. And I didn't realize that. The ways that I was showing up and landing were things that I'd put in place in my own life as a barrier and a protection to me not getting hurt. But it was hurting her. What I wasn't doing was hurting her, and I didn't know, right? But we have to be willing to be in these relationships, to be able to speak up and say, hey, you know what? This is how you're landing. How are we ever going to know how we're landing and how we're showing up if somebody won't tell us? And I was so grateful that she said these things because now that relationship is starting to flourish in ways that I'm so incredibly grateful for, right? I'm grateful she brought it up. I'm grateful she said it, and it's hard. It's hard to confront somebody, and it's hard to hear something, but you have to be willing to do that. So the lie that I was believing that was feeding all of that was that I am a burden. So instead of being able to show up, I was like, she don't want to hear from me. I'm just not going to show up. Not okay, right? Okay. Did you guys get some answers on there? Anybody feel seen? Okay, second question. What lies have you believed about the people around you that are keeping you from connecting in meaningful ways? Same thing. You do not have to post here if you don't want to, but I'm guessing that somebody else is thinking the same things. While you think on that, about 20 years ago, I was working in an after-school program with middle school students. It was amazing. I loved all of them, but they hated each other, and they were catty to each other for absolutely no reason. I would hear them just ragging on the girl next to them, like, you don't even know her. So I was like, enough of this. Enough of this. We are going to have a big sleepover, you guys are hanging out, and what we did is we brought 50 girls, 50 middle school girls to the YMCA at the time, and we hung out, we danced that night, we had pizza, we played games, we stayed up all night. The next morning we had a speaker, she came and talked to us, we had small groups, we had open mic conversations, and then a beauty school came in and they did all their hair, and we had a big banquet that night, they got all beautiful, and then something changed in them because they realized that they had respect for each other because they got to know each other. And I can't help but wonder how many women in this room need to have a sleepover. I bet you can think of somebody you need to have a sleepover with so that you can get to know her a little bit. Maybe that's the next thing we need to do is a retreat. Okay. I'm just speaking that into existence. Okay, but you all, grace is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Thank you so much for your answers. You guys can continue answering if you want, but I'm going to move on from that. Grace is a beautiful thing. Grace is so beautiful for you to offer to the person next to you for them to be able to work through their stuff, but also to offer yourself to work through your own. Okay? A community's well-being simply has to do with the quality of relationships and cohesion that exists amongst its members. It is measured by how much we trust each other. So I hope that you've gained something from this talk tonight. I kind of shortened it because we ran out of some time. But if you don't hear anything else, you are loved. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, ladies, thank you so much. If you didn't notice, if you weren't here the last time, I had a knee injury, and now I'm in my slippers. So
Thank you.
yeah.
I was like,
Well, I just
those
want, if
conversations
anyone's
that
in this room, and they feel
Yeah,
like
like,
maybe
so good.
they
Yes.
are not
Just